started on this, I've been with Adobe for over 10 years. I've seen the growth of the products, and a lot of this has been driven specifically by Hollywood. When I left North America to go move to Singapore 5 years ago, we were at a point where we were talking with different directors and different editors. And in a lot of cases, we would show them what we could do with Premiere. They would come back and say, you're missing this, this, and this before I can really use this. And we basically kept taking that feedback and putting it back into the products over and over again. And we were working with some of the top people in the industry. And that eventually led to the formation of what we're now calling the Adobe Hollywood Group, which is who I just came back from Singapore to join back up with the Adobe Hollywood team down here. We're really small right now. It is a growing group at Adobe. And part of this is because we've been doing these engagements with specific Hollywood productions. You guys have probably heard of one of them that happened earlier this year. We brought this guy to life in Deadpool. So this film was 100% edited in Adobe Premiere. Really big test of the software. This was actually when you take all the different VFX revisions, all the different turnarounds, you're talking about over 750,000 clips broken up into reels. And so this was one of the ways that we've been really testing and battle-proofing the software is working and doing these Hollywood engagements. And this is something that we want to grow further. Which is one of the reasons why I moved. And I'm currently based in Culver City. We've got a small development office in Culver City. Some films that or one film in particular that you may hear of next year. Some group of filmmakers and an editor I know named Vashi Nedemansky has been working on a film called Six Below. This is actually something that is being edited 100% native in 6K directly with the R3D files. Part of the reason for that is it's being funded and will be delivered. One of the formats it'll be delivered in is Barco Escape, which is actually a native 6,000 pixels across. So this is something that is being edited or was edited in Adobe Premiere on a really beefy PC machine. And they were able to actually use this for doing things like testing color in screenings, making sure when you deal with Barco Escape with the 3 projectors that the side projectors weren't washing out the center, and being able to play that right off the timeline. Now, I want to just take the time here to talk about some of the sort of experimental formats that we're seeing people using. We just shipped a new version of Premiere. So the current version of Premiere is called Premiere Pro CC 2017. We went right from 2015 to 2017. I think a lot of people want to forget 2016, so kind of makes sense. But with CC 2017, we're improving on the workflows dealing with VR space is one of the features that was added into the software. Specifically, we now automatically detect VR footage. If you have equirectangular footage, we'll now automatically detect it. And if you're using Premiere, we actually have a pan-around viewer display built into the software. And this is something that can even be set up on a laptop computer. If you're working with stereo footage, you actually can set this for anaglyph mode, use the old school red and blue glasses, and actually see the footage. Let me see, I'll find a good shot here. You can see the anaglyph display and actually see the stereo convergence directly on a laptop screen. For actually seeing this in a heads-up display, we do have an option currently that was also added, which allows you to actually connect up a head-mounted display directly inside of Premiere. We kind of call this the producer's experience because it's still a little bit awkward to be editing with the headset, take the headset off, make changes, put the headset back on, look around. But in a lot of cases, what we see is there can be a producer or somebody who's sitting actually getting the VR experience, the 360 experience with the headset, and the editor can turn this on and actually see what the producer is looking at the same time. This is a bit of a change from the release that we had earlier in the year. If you have existing projects, just know that what we have done is made it so when you create a new sequence in Premiere, the sequence actually has VR properties now. And so if you have older projects that you convert to the newer version and you're already working in VR, this can be a little bit of a change that you have to get used to. If you create a sequence, you want to make sure that it has these stereo properties in order to enable the VR viewer. But we've been working really closely with people who are doing 360 video in VR, and this is the right way to go. So we feel that this is how we're going to do this moving forward. It's got a lot of benefits, including the ability to kind of switch back and forth between different formats. So here I've got my VR, my stereoscopic footage. Here I've got a monoscopic shot on a monoscopic timeline, and I don't have to go back and forth and change the VR viewing properties to do that. So this is the way we're going to move forward with VR. We're working on our VR workflow, or our HDR workflows within Adobe Premiere, and it is possible to do some experimentation and playing around with HDR today inside of Premiere. I have to say it's not a 100% workflow at this point. We're still dealing with Rec. 709 color space as far as viewing is concerned. If you actually want to view HDR footage, you still need to have some sort of an external box. AJA just released drivers for the IO 4K, which enable HDR support. So this is something that if you have an HDR display, you can use an external monitor and actually do some experimentation with HDR today inside of Premiere. To set this up, here I am inside of the color workspace, and we have switches to throw the scopes into an HDR mode. And by doing this, we suddenly have a display going to a full 10,000 nits. We can see where the peaks are. And from a color perspective, you also have the ability to turn Lumetri color into a high dynamic range mode, which adds additional sliders for being able to set your target white point. And if you move into things like color wheels, you suddenly have an HDR specular wheel that you can play around with independent of the traditional shadows, midtones, and highlights. Now for export, if you choose to export out in HDR, we support formats like OpenEXR. But one kind of interesting thing that I've been playing around with, I just got an HDR commercial consumer television at home. This happens to read HEVC files directly off of a thumb drive. The majority of them do today. So if you just want to play with some footage, see what it's going to look like in an HDR mode, we do support export in HEVC. And by selecting this, you do need to create a custom preset for this. The trick for making this work is you need to change the profile from main to main 10, and this will let you turn on Rec. 2020 color primaries and high dynamic range. So when you export a file in this format, it will actually give you, it'll trigger the alert on the TV. It'll create an actual HDR10 file so that the TV will use that metadata information to stretch the highlights up into the extended dynamic range space. So it's something that you can play with today. Again, it's not a full grading workflow for HDR. I won't try and pretend that it is at this point, but it is something that gives you that ability to create, like if you need to create a daily for somebody to kind of give them a sense as to what the HDR is going to look like, this is an easy way of doing it. We have been working really, really hard on collaborative workflows. We understand that when we talk about feature film workflows, inevitably you're talking about a team of 5 or more editors kind of working together. You need to be able to share projects effectively. And we're kind of tackling this in a couple of different directions, some of which I can't talk about right now, but we have some interesting stuff coming in the near future. What I can show you today is something that we've put in the software. It's available for use today. We are labeling it as beta right now, and I will say it's really more geared towards short form work for testing purposes today, but we'll see how this evolves as we move forward. It's something we call team projects. And the idea behind team projects, this is something built right into the software. So if I create a new project, I now also have the option of creating something called a team project. Now to use this, you can use this today with Adobe Premiere if you are a member of Creative Cloud for Teams, or if you work in a facility that has what we call Creative Cloud for Enterprise and you're on an enterprise license. We'll see how this evolves, but right now for the beta version that's available today, it's for CC Teams subscribers or CC Enterprise subscribers. And the idea behind this, I can create a team project, and what this means is a team project is different from a local project in that a local project is a file that's stored on your local hard drive. It's a PROJ file. With a team project, what actually happens is the project information is actually hosted on a server and a database in the cloud. Now, we don't put any media in the cloud. Everything, all your media is kept locally. You can have a shared drive that everybody is editing from, or you can make copies of the media and do what we call co-located editing, where two people have the same copy of the footage, and all that's stored in the cloud again is the project file. The sequences, all of that metadata information that makes up a project lives in the cloud. Now, rather than creating one from scratch here, I'm just going to open one that I've already been working on. And this is all reliant on how good the internet connection is here. Let me just make sure I'm connected. Yep. So this is a project. This was actually being worked on about 8 hours ago in Buenos Aires from one of my team members, David Helmley, my manager, is down in Argentina at the moment, and he was actually giving some demos and working on this down there. Again, since I have the same copy of the media, I can immediately jump into this at any point in time. I can see if he's made any changes, and it does look like somebody has been editing this right now. It's saying get latest changes. So I can go ahead and click on that. It's going to go up to the server and actually pull down whatever changes somebody on the team was making. Now here I can see all the different members of the team that are currently working on this. Michael Gambach is actually in Germany at the moment. Alyssa is up in Seattle. And I can see the other people here that are actually working on this. Chetan is actually in Mumbai. So since all we're doing is passing the project information back and forth, it's a really, really quick and easy process, and it enables teams to kind of work together. Nobody overwrites anybody else's work. If necessary, it'll make a branch of the project, of a sequence that's being edited, so that there's kind of this built-in conflict resolution built into the way this works. And also, if you need to go back in time at any point, if I go into my team project here in the media browser, I can bring up something called the production history slider. And by doing this, I have a slider where I can actually roll back in time to any different state within the project. And if you read the notes, you can see that there's Gustavo doing some editing, there's Dave Helmley doing some editing, back to Gustavo. So you can see what's going on at any stage during the process. So this is, again, it is in the shipping version of the software. It is called Team Projects, and it is listed as beta at this point. This works with both Premiere and After Effects. The one thing that's missing from the beta right now is any type of dynamic linking function. We have demonstrated at trade shows the technology that lets you take an After Effects comp and drag and drop it right into a Premiere Pro timeline inside of a team project. That is not in the current shipping beta, but it is possible for After Effects artists to work together and share comps, and it's possible for Premiere editors to work together and share sequences and work further. That's everything I have to show you guys today.